Guys, I'm here to tell you why you need altcoins in your portfolio, and it has to do with the intrinsic weaknesses of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, some of you might be going, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're perfect. How can they be weak? Well, watch my last video on why Ethereum is a complete failure. And I think if you've used Ethereum to do any kind of transactions, at least the base layer, you'll know the high fees because of meme coins like Chad and Pepe are unacceptable. You can imagine that each swap on Uniswap will take several $100s via Ethereum in the next bull run because the fees are ridiculous. Their last fork didn't help it, and they're going to get more ridiculous in the future. If you want to wait 10 years for Ethereum to live up to its promise, go straight on ahead. But as for me, no one got time for that. I ain't doing that. And as for Bitcoin, it's not sustainable, not in an energy consumption model, but just as a cost for mining model. If you really think about it, it's both the cost and the security, because Bitcoin halves every 4 years. That means it takes twice as much electricity to get the same reward every 4 years when it halves, which means the price also has to go up exponentially for basically forever, up until 2140, every 4 years. That's pretty much impossible, because remember, right now, in a bull run, in the last bull run, basically Bitcoin's price or market cap got to about $1 trillion. Now, if you double every 4 years, in about 10 doubles or 40 years, you get 1000x. That's 2 to the 10th power is 1024, which means Bitcoin's market cap would have to be over $2 quadrillion in roughly 40 years. Now, $2 quadrillion, I think, is greater than the entire world's GDP. In 40 years, there's a good chance it would be still greater than the entire world's GDP. It's very, very unlikely that Bitcoin is going to surpass that. $2 quadrillion is actually worth way more in the stock market right now, and it'll still be way more in the stock market in 40 years. And basically, it would be worth more than most of our financial markets. It would literally have to dominate the entire world's infrastructure and then some, maybe in Mars, to be $2 quadrillion. So I actually don't think Bitcoin by itself would be $2 quadrillion. And if you think Bitcoin's $2 quadrillion, all the altcoins would go up and you'd get like several $2 quadrillion worth of market cap. I personally don't think those numbers are viable even in 40 years. Even in 20 years, 2 to the 5th is 32, which means Bitcoin would be getting near Bitcoins would actually be getting near $1 million, actually over $1 million in market cap in 20 years. In 10 years, it's not so bad, like 2 to the 2.5th power, 2 to the 3rd power, 2 to the 3.5, maybe about 10x or so. So Bitcoin, during a bull run would be around 10 times, a little bit more maybe, than its last all-time high, which would make it actually over $500,000, probably $700,000 to $800,000. Even that is hard to actually contain. And we know that nothing can go up exponentially forever. And I don't think, it's going to take 40 years for Bitcoin to fail, because if the price doesn't keep up, which means if the world doesn't have in massive, massive amounts of money by then, Bitcoin's not going to be able to maintain itself, because without that price expansion, the electricity cost doubles every 4 years as well. And the electricity cost will eventually be greater than what they can sell the Bitcoin for. And that would bring down the entire network, because no one would actually be mining Bitcoin anymore. And you can say, well, less people will mine, less hash rate, then it can be affordable and sustainable again. You're right. But remember, Bitcoin security relies on its hash rate. And as the hash rate goes down, it's going to be less secure. So it'll be more likely to be double spended. So you need the hash rate. But because you at least need the hash rate, and that's just like us maintaining the current hash rate. The hash rate's actually growing right now. So it's actually more than double the cost right now every 4 years. That's obviously not sustainable. Nothing can grow exponentially forever. And because Bitcoin's mining algorithm or Bitcoin's mining mechanics dictated that it has to actually grow exponentially forever to maintain the price, that's not a good thing. Some of you might be saying, but miners can have transaction fees, and that'll keep the miners happy. No, 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 no. If it were any other coin besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, that might be true, because they can have thousands of transactions per minute. Remember, Bitcoin's kind of capped at like 7 transactions per second. Not 1,500, not 2,000 like HBAR or VeChain or like, like Cardano, several hundred transactions per minute. With Hydra, going to be a lot more, or XRP, 1,500 per minute. Like it doesn't have that transaction time. Bitcoin's essentially capped at 7 TPS, or was it like 14 TPS or something? Regardless, the transaction TPS for Bitcoin is not all that impressive. So miner fees are actually going to be limited because of the limited TPS. So you actually have to have that exponential expansion in price to make the miners worth it after a couple more cycles. And not to mention, like I said, the hash rate is growing. So the price actually has to not only double, but quadruple or quintuple every couple of years to actually keep up. And that is completely and utterly unsustainable. And with that being unsustainable, you can't keep miners' interest and you can't keep the security of Bitcoin, which means it's going to be worth it for people to launch attacks if that hash rate ever comes down. That's going to cause serious problems. So that's the big problem with Bitcoin, and that's why it's not sustainable. It's not because of the green stuff. Bitcoin uses mostly green energy right now anyways, but because it's the intrinsic mining exponential factor in Bitcoin that it won't work in the long term. I don't think, within a couple of like a decade or two, Bitcoin will reach $1 quadrillion in market cap. Trillion, no problem. 10 trillion, no problem. 50 trillion, maybe. $1 quadrillion, not really possible. Unless we get hyperinflation all over the world, which would be disastrous for everyone. And I would not be betting on that. But yeah, just $1 quadrillion in terms of like today's money, not viable at all. So this is why you actually need altcoins, not because altcoins are super awesome. They are, but that's not the main reason. It's because Bitcoin and Ethereum, based on their current conditions, are both destined to fail. So you actually need altcoins that are designed from the beginning to actually succeed, to actually be able to sustain a lot of transactions, and that doesn't have this exponential miner problem. Because in the long run, you're going to need something that can last a long time, not something that is basically designed to fail from the get-go or has some kind of like exponential growth problem from the get-go that requires to maintain exponential growth forever and ever and ever, because we all know that doesn't exist. And if you don't know that doesn't exist, I'm here to tell you that doesn't exist. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.